And welcome everyone to another fun episode. It's been a while of Isles Talk. This is a special off-season path to the draft segment of Isles Talk. This is where I normally would be doing this by myself, but this was a very special season. A season in review is coming up. So before we get into the draft picks, the prospects, the expansion draft, and everything else, I really wanted to cover this past season. And before I continue any further, I do want to give a quick shout out to a very close friend of mine, David Weintraub, who unfortunately passed away a couple of weeks ago to cancer. He was a very big Isles Talk fan. He loved his New York Islanders. And David, we are thinking about you. We thank you for being such a big fan of Isles Talk and the Islanders. You will always be remembered. And rest easy, my friend. Your pain is over.
God bless.
So,
God bless, yes.
Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Isles Talk. My name is Paul Kreischer. With me is, he may not be able to physically see, but he sees all things Islanders. He is none other than John Panarese. John, how are you doing this evening?
Good, very good.
Good.
For a Wednesday.
That's right. And reluctantly, I couldn't get Claire on air, so I had to, I'm stuck with her husband, the creator of everything blogs, the creator of everything Islanders Booster Club, you name it. It's all his fault. Gary Harding. Gary, how are you?
Can I talk now?
Yes, you can talk.
No, it's good. It's good to be here as always, bud. You know that.
Yep. So, again, a path to the draft. I started this a couple of years ago, and Gary may know this because, we've talked for many years, but I'm not sure if John knows. I started this years ago, back in 2008. I've been blogging since at least, I think, 2006 at this point. And 2008, when we all found out that Garth Snow was going to start building through the draft and drafting heavy, I was like, well, I may as well start learning about the draft. And everything has unfolded from there. 10 years, 15, 13 years later, it's become, I don't want to say an obsession, but definitely a hobby of mine to really follow the draft picks, the development. And in turn, I've been able to, I don't want to say predict, but it allows me to take a couple of steps back, take a look at the whole organization as a whole, and gently see what Garth Snow used to try to do, and what Lou Lamoriello is trying to do now. And a lot of our shows are still based off the old Bill Torrey drafting, development, and watching this team grow like most of you did during the dynasty years. So not only are you going to get an education from the show, but you're also going to get more info. You're going to get that good vibe. Sometimes you're not, but that's where we're at in this off season. So before we begin to talk about the kids and the expansion draft and everything else, this season to me was all about the collie. And John, I'm going to go with you first. Give me your thoughts on this season, what it meant to you, and what do you think it meant to Islander fans playing at the collie? One more time.
Well, let's start with the season itself. I mean, think back to when this all started. The 56 games within the division that we were facing. All the talk of how well was this team going to be able to survive, having to play, Washington and Boston and Pittsburgh and the Rangers and Philly 8 times apiece, et cetera, et cetera. So I can remember a couple of weeks into the season, and I think it was on the NHL Network. They were doing one of the shows, and they had already counted the Islanders out of making the playoffs. And I still, for some reason, that sticks in my mind. It wasn't even 2 weeks into the season, I think. And they were already saying, I don't think this team's good enough to make the playoffs. I don't think this team's good enough to make the playoffs in this division. And here we are. We get to the playoffs. Yeah, we limped. I'm not going to deny that. We kind of limped in a little bit. But again, at the beginning of the playoffs, how many fans really thought we were going to go deep the way we looked getting into the playoffs? Because it wasn't going to be like last season, where you had the break, you had the COVID break, and then you had the tournament or whatever you want to call it that started when you had months off. This was going right in from the 56-game season right into the playoffs. And there we go. We take the conference finals, game 7, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the champs at this point, all the way to the wire. 1-goal game, 1-0. So, to me, I consider this season just another success for Lou and for Barry. I think, it's the 3rd year in a row we've made the playoffs. The 2nd year in a row we got just on the doorstep of competing for the cup. And I think that for the fans, from what I've read, I think people, it's weird. And I guess when you've had the kind of culture we've had for the last several years under the different ownerships and such, people are still, I think, a little reluctant to totally buy into the fact that this team is here to stay. And I think sometimes that has to do with the fact that the NHL, pundits, quote unquote, still do not give this team the kind of respect it deserves. But overall, I really think the last 3 seasons and this season has really been, just a great thing for us longtime Islander fans. And to be able to go back to the Coliseum and finish things off, so to speak, by the exciting games that we had, in these playoffs, especially Anthony Bowe's, overtime goal in game 6 to get us to game 7, and just how loud that place. I wasn't there. Gary was there, and Gary's going to talk about his experiences, but I got to listen to this stuff, and it just amazed me listening to how friggin' loud that place got, how that place was rocking. And I think that just typified the type of season we had and how close we had, and we were. And I think fans have to remember that. Yeah, we didn't get to the finals. Did it sting? Did it hurt me personally? Yeah, Gary and I spoke about this on the radio show Sunday night, how close we were. And I kind of had the hope and the idea that we actually were going to get to the finals. And my attitude was, well, if we got beat by Montreal, at least we got to the dance. But we didn't. But I'm okay with that. I'm finally, I guess the sting is kind of leaving, and I'm able to look back on this season and see what successes we had, and to see how this team continues to progress and how much hope there is to the future, which I think, we'll all try to, make people understand that this team is here to stay. We're not going anywhere. So that's my encapsulation of things.
Beautifully said.
Very well.
Perfectly said.
Very well.
Absolutely. A lot of that I agree with, and that's going to be my job over the next couple of weeks here, boys and girls. I'm going to tell you and explain to you how long the Islanders could possibly keep this up for. So if you guys stick around, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, like and subscribe. We'll be here every Wednesday at this point. Follow us for the next 3 weeks, and we'll guide you through the offseason. We're going to tell you guys what we think, how far this Islander team can go as an organization from here on out. Now, Gary, I envy you.
Yeah,
I envy you.
And write it down on this tape, because he doesn't usually envy people.
No, I did. And, for those of you who don't know, I'm in the long-term care facilities. They just let me out. Like literally a week or two ago, they just let me out. So for all of you Islander season ticket holders, for all of you Islander fans who were able to go home, go to your second home after being in your homes for so long,
Stuck inside. Yep.
stuck inside. I have nothing but gratitude for you guys, because while I was still stuck inside, you guys went bananas. Like, I did not even need surround sound stereo to hear you guys going. That's the passion that I was missing for a while. So, Gary, I wanted to get your take. What was it like on the at the Collie? What did you think of the season? Give it to me.
Okay, I'll start with the season, and John said it excellently, about how he felt. For those of you that are younger, I'm going to give you an expression. No, it has nothing to do with hockey. I'm going to give you an expression of something that they may not know. If you've ever heard of the expression a Rube Goldberg, if anybody doesn't know what that means is, you ever watch on TV where like a golf ball starts at the top of some like big hill and goes through all sorts of things, hits a top or hits a bell, and the bell knocks this little guy and it rolls down a hill and it goes through gyrations for God knows how long, and it gets to the end and it lights a candle or something.
Right.
Well, for years and years and years, to build something like this, it takes a lot of work, and it's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of mess. Well, right now, the Islanders are about one step away from lighting that candle. And that's, look it up on the internet. Look up Rube Goldberg and look up some of the stuff. You'll find it amazing. But that's how close this organization is. And as John said, one unfortunate play is the difference between us sitting here and talking about how the season ended and me going to the bank and getting a loan to get tickets for game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals, because that's what it would have took. But the three of us all spoke at length during the season, and when it got to the end of April and we were sitting here getting ready for the playoffs, and as it was last year the year before when the team limped into the playoffs, they were almost limping in again. You kept wondering, can they repeat that magic? Can they repeat that magic? All three of us believed they could. But, there was always something sticking in the back of your brain saying, I don't know. We're just, as Islander fans, we're used to implosions.
Yeah.
We're used to things going bad. We're used to things, like collapsing in our faces. We all felt good when we beat Pittsburgh in 2019, and then we walked into Carolina and limped in like a dead noodle. So we knew that situation could come. And when we were down 2-1 to Pittsburgh, you're going, oh no, here we go. And again, they proved us wrong. Like those shirts they made, the guys had last year, proved people wrong. They did it. And with every game of going back to the Coliseum, basically from the time they let us in March, every game, it got louder. It got louder. It got louder. It got louder. And then when they started increasing the capacity, it went into nutso, and then more nutso, and more nutso. Sitting at game 6 of the Penguin series when we beat them, I turned to Claire and like, can it get better than this? And who knows? Boston came up, and sure enough, it did. It got louder. It got crazier. It got nuts. Walking around the concourse. Back to the days when you barely had enough room to wiggle your way through a section. The bathroom lines got tremendously long again. The concession lines got extremely big again. I was like, we're home, baby. We're home. And throughout all this, as John said, the Rodney Dangerfields of the National Hockey League, they said, no, they can't do this. They can't beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. They can't beat Sidney Crosby. Yeah, well, we did. They're never going to have a clue against the Boston Bruins down 2-1. There's no way they're going to do it again. Hello, we did it again. And then comes Tampa, 2-1 again. Game 4 was just the most unbelievable event. I was unfortunately on the other side of the ice and did not really see what happened. But it's like I had to, we literally ran to our car. I literally turned on YouTube to go find the clip, and my heart stopped beating for a couple of seconds. That's how it felt. I'm like, it's amazing. I can't believe we're going through this, and they're still not believing us. We lose 8-0 in game 5. Both of us, we both said, there's no problem. I'm not down. I'm not upset. Wipe it off. Barry Trotz said it's a 24-hour flu. We're going to get through. And I'll tell you, it took me literally till almost like yesterday or the day before my ears to stop ringing from game 6. I just can't imagine it. And again, you're talking 4,000 less people in that building than there was during the Cup runs, during the 93 run, during the 2002 run, even during 2016 when JT scored the goal in overtime to force game 7 against the Caps. And I thought I heard it all. I didn't hear nothing compare it. And I'm just so happy and honored not only to be there, but to witness a win in basically the last game ever played at the Coliseum. And the point of knowing how much passion Islander fans had, that on that Friday on game 7, it took a PA announcer screaming his head off and giving fans 20,000 clappers to not even come close to out screaming the Coliseum. That's what I will take forever out of that barn. That 20,000 people with clappers at full loudness could not duplicate what we had.
Not according to John Cooper.
Well, John Cooper, he's doing what he's supposed to do, but
Yes. Yep.
I don't trust him as far as I can throw him.
For those of you who like this video so far, hit that thumb button, hit the thank yous, hit the likes. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on Twitter and Facebook. We're going to be doing more of this. Gary, I got to ask you again about the Coliseum. How about the national anthem?
Oh, well, I will sit here and tell you, as God is my witness, and if Claire's upstairs, she can't hear me, but she would be too. I have never been to a game where I have not sang the national anthem.
Correct.
I'm sorry. I'm very proud to be an American. I'm proud of that
I will
anthem.
vouch. I've sat next to you.
Yes, and when the Canadian teams come, I sing "O Canada," and when Montreal comes, I sing in French. So that's even better. But I always sing the anthems. So and again, after 9/11, for about a year, Islander fans did it every game, and it was loud. But it took an unfortunate accident for Nicole that her mic didn't work for the fans to take over. And I just hope that continues when we go to the new barn. That was just, it gave me chills. It really did. And very few things have given me that sense. And I was proud to be an Islander fan. And I try to listen. Am I hearing the anthem from the fans in Game 7? No, not really. They were, but not to our level.
No, some of them were trying, but
yeah, not even close. Not even close.
I've been to a game with Gary. It was against the Edmonton Oilers, and they had to do, they had to play the Canadian anthem, and that is I don't even want to say a regret, but it would have been something had the Islanders gone to the Stanley Cup, and then we had to play the Canadian national anthem. Every Islander fan there would have belted out the Canadian anthem to the point that every Canadian would have shed a tear. I have no doubt about that.
Exactly. And everybody knows Nicole's connection because she's born and raised in Montreal. grew up a Habs fan, but she was still proud to do what she's doing. She's trying to get an acting and singing career on Broadway, and God bless her and good luck to her, and I hope she gets it. I hope she gets everything. But that you're right, it would have been, and I gladly would have sang the first stanza in French.
Attaboy. So compared to 2002, because I was there for 2002, Sean-based penalty shot. 2003, when we basically ran the newly crowned Vezina Trophy winner, Marc-Andre Fleury, out of the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
Compare Game 6 to those two games, even 93. Can you compare those other games to this year?
No, can't.
Ha! Great
Can't.
answer.
Can't. Although they were great, although they were wonderful, and I never thought we would get to another level like that. That's why I say with 70% capacity compared to what we had in those years. No, it blew the doors off. Not only did it blow the doors off in the building during the game, but coming out of the concourse afterwards, it was pandemonium. The kids were great. The youngsters were great. There was passion in their voices. But I really enjoyed watching people my age, a little younger than me, towards people that witnessed the dynasty, people that lived through the dynasty. That's the people I was really looking for. And, Mike and Diana are friends that we go to games with all the time. When Diana walked out, and she was sitting underneath us in the 100s, and when she came out, I watched her, and she was full out in tears. That's the emotion that I wanted to see in the older generation, because they lived it. They knew what it was like. They knew the passion that the fans had when they won those 4 Stanley Cups in the 19 straight playoff series. She had it. It was complete raw emotion. And I had to hug her at that point, and she was shaking. She was absolutely shaking in complete love. And I saw it in not her, but in tons of people as we were walking out of the building and going to our cars. And, it would have been something, if God forbid we pulled that win off on Friday and we were playing for the cup, and just, what it would have been like to go back to the Stanley Cup Finals again. But as I said it on the show on Sunday, you guys heard it if you watched it or listened to it. This isn't over yet. And you're going to get into it. You're going to get into it with the prospects and everything else. And reading up a little bit as I did from Sunday on when you talked about some things, this is not over by a long shot.
No, not at all. Again, me being from a distance, I can only experience what I saw on TV. And for those of you who have been following the show for so long, you guys know I do percentages. I do the numbers for these guys. I don't want to say analytics. It's very basic math for the most part. This was a season going in. I thought they could repeat and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 56-game season. This team reminded me of the 95 Devils. Boston in the playoffs were my only concern until I saw Cal Clutterbuck hit Brandon Carlo against the boards, and then Carlo went down, and Carlo didn't come back. Mm-hmm. And then for me, that changed everything. And it's like, oh, look out. Now we got something. Let's get into the numbers here for a little bit during the regular season, guys. And I'm doing this because there's a couple of people who want to get rid of us, a few players during the expansion draft. So,
gee, I see. I've seen some names pop up on the message board. So
yeah, I see it. Yep. So, what happened? You guys are looking for the scoring. I'm going to tell you what happened. Bailey, again, based off the 82-game season, what were they really on pace for? Bailey was on pace for 12. In all honesty, guys, that's his average, 12 to 17 goals. He was going to improve on that anyway. Matt Barzell was on pace for 25. Beauvillier was on pace for 23. Casey Zizekas was 10. Clutterbuck was 6. All these numbers are normal, guys. Noah Dobson was 5. Jordan Eberle, 24. Nick Leddy, I'll get to the defense in a minute. Anders Lee, before he got injured, was on pace for 24. Brock Nelson, 26. JG Pajot, 21. All of these numbers are normal for your forwards. Okay? So where was the lack of scoring coming from? Well, here are some troubling numbers. Ryan Pulock was only on pace for 3. Adam Pelech had a career year. He was on pace for 6. He's normally good for about 3 or 4. He was coming along. Scott Mayfield was on pace for 3. That's a little bit below his average, but not much. Nick Leddy, 3 goals.
Yep.
Not much. And like I said, Ryan Pulock was on pace for 3. He's normally good for 10, guys. There's a lot of significant lack of scoring from the defense. Okay? But there's a big button here.
Thank you.
Semyon Varlamov, Ilya Sorokin, over an 82-game pace, would have only given up, as of right now, 171 goals for this season. The Islanders were on pace to roughly score 225. That's a difference of what?
54.
51? Yeah.
54. Yeah.
54. 54.
I take that goal differential anytime.
I will take it every time. And you know what, guys? You're going to get it every year. You're going to get it every year.
Well, put this into perspective. Wasn't it when the Islander goaltender tandem, wasn't when they won the
Jennings?
The Jennings, wasn't it 196 goals, something like that, or 194?
Yeah.
So you're talking about, a 20-plus goal less, they would have given up at an 82-game season.
Now, again, things could have happened. There was plenty of times for things to go wrong because we're Islander fans. But 56 games in, there were no worries. There were no worries at all. Now, for those of you who want Oliver Wahlstrom, I'll give you Oliver Wahlstrom's numbers. He was on pace for 34 goals. 34 goals, but he was playing with JG Pajot. Okay? Now, Oliver Wahlstrom scored a total of 12 goals in 44 games. For next season, Kyle Palmieri, who will probably be back, you're asking Kyle Palmieri to make up some of those goals. He's going to. So, offense is not the issue when defense and goaltending is still key to this team and organization. So, from a numbers standpoint, Trotz and Lou delivered on what they promised. They promised and delivered on a system based off of defense, goaltending, and Gary, as you put it, built for the playoffs.
Yeah, without question. And for those, again, just for those that were commenting constantly on Oliver Wahlstrom, I love the kid. And I preface by saying I love this kid. And this kid's got an incredible future.
Yeah,
but there was no way on God's green earth that you put a 21-year-old kid with 30 games experience in the National Hockey League after coming off an injury for whatever amount of weeks into the biggest game that he would have to play in his life without any games in front of it. There is not one coach, not one professional coach anywhere. I'm talking Barry Trotz, John Cooper. You can get Al Arbor. Al Arbor would never, ever put Oliver Wahlstrom in that Game 6 situation. regardless of what's going on in front of him. There is no way in hell that would have happened.
No.
And if anybody wants to argue with me on it, please do. I will smack you silly in an argument.
I'll give you his information, folks. I'll give you all the information you need.
No, but he's absolutely right. I mean,
Go ahead, John.
any coach would have not put a kid into that position.
Yeah,
and you got to take the emotion out. And like these fans, they're thinking with their emotions and not their brains. You know, would you want to ruin a kid's career? What happened if he was responsible for giving up a goal that ended up costing the game? That would destroy his psyche.
Yeah. I mean, get this kid ready for training camp. You know, as people were saying, put him on the first line with Barzy and Lee. Absolutely. No doubt about it. If he's capable enough and ready enough to take that job, absolutely we would put him in. But in that situation, hell no. Okay. But Komarov on the first line's a problem. Okay. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
Well, hold on. I have a friend of mine who's trying to throw me under the bus here. Brian, we all know who wanted him to play, Paul Kreischer. That is true. I did want Oliver Wahlstrom and Kiefer Bellows and the kids to play this season in the NHL because I knew, number one, it was a shortened season. Number two, and I'll get into this in a couple of weeks, Bridgeport was nothing more than an extended training camp. And if you want development of these kids this year, you are supposed to put them into the NHL under certain circumstances. Just like they did with Sorokin this year. They played the kids under the right circumstances and they blossomed. That's what I wanted. I have no problem sitting Oliver Wahlstrom during that series after he was benched because, in all honesty, that poor kid hit his head on the ice a couple of times. I am not jeopardizing his career right now.
Right.
Especially the way he hit those boards.
Yep. There's no question in my mind.
And then let's bring this up. Komarov on the first line is a problem. We all know it. I saw Komarov generate a lot of offensive opportunities for Barzal. And I also saw Barzal do a lot of one-on-threes. I also saw Barzal do a lot of turnovers. I saw a lot of Barzal do what he did in the regular season. So for those of you, racking up on Komarov, for those of you racking up on Eberle, you got to calm it down a little bit because Barzal still is trying to take over the game by himself. And the problem is the other teams know this. Barzal looked like a center from the Ontario Hockey League, and the defenseman played it perfectly.
Yep,
Sorry,
they certainly did.
That's what the centers do in the Ontario Hockey League. They go 1-on-3, 1-on-4, dipsy doodle their way, and try to score that big goal. It doesn't work. Now, for Komarov, who are you putting in? Kiefer Bellows doesn't play defensively the way Komarov does. To my knowledge, Ross Johnson was still injured. Michael Dal-Cole was still injured. And you're not playing Anders Lee anytime soon either.
When Barzy is at his best, he needs to get time and space. And what Komarov was good at was giving those opportunities to give Barzal time and space, one-on-one. That's the time. You're not asking Komarov to be a goal scorer. Yes, he's on line one. Okay, I don't like to use line numbers. He's on Barzal's line.
He's on Barzal's line.
Okay, but it's not to score goals. It's to create opportunities for his line mates and create space for his line mates to have opportunities. Anders Lee does score goals, but Anders Lee also gives Barzy a ton of room because he gets rid of guys in the slot area, gives up room for Barzal to do his magic making. And when he's doing his magic making at that times, he's not one-on-one because Barzal's getting guys away from him. I mean, Lee's getting guys away from him. So you have to understand the role, okay? Because everybody's looking at it from a number standpoint. The things that Leo Komarov does, and I'm not saying, it's an end-all, be-all, but in the situation they had, with the injuries they had, and the roster they had, he was the only option. And people aren't going to like that, but you know what? That's the way it is.
Just look at the lineup. Look at the roster. That's the only thing, choice we really had. And Komarov is defensively responsible. And that's something people have to understand too. How many times on that line with Barzell did he come back and break up plays, or make that block at the right time? There's little. What does Trot say? There's things that go beyond the analytics. It's the eye test that this guy passes in my book. No pun intended as a blind person, but that's the reality.
Somebody's saying Palmieri fit on line one. I agree. I kind of agree with that to an extent.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say I agree with Brian on that one. I'm going to bring that up in a minute, but Matt brings up a good point. Problem is, opposition only need to focus on Barzell with Leo out there. Part of that's true, but Barzell still did not dump the puck in. He did the Ontario Hockey League dipsy doodle 1-on-3, 1-on-4 instead of following the system, playing with the rest of his teammates.
Yeah. Totally.
Instead, he got burned. Remember what Barry Trotz said about Barzell's leadership. It's not there yet, paraphrasing. He's learning, he's growing, but part of being a leader is it's about playing with the team and sticking with the Islanders system. And there are still at times when Barzell did not do that. Now, let's bring in Palmieri. Palmieri is a fit on line one. How many goals did Palmieri have against Tampa Bay?
That's right.
Zero. How many goals did J.G. Pajot have against Tampa Bay? Zero. Mm-hmm. How many goals did Travis Zajac have against Tampa Bay? Zero. So for all of you guys knocking on Komarov, does Palmieri really going to have a shot with Matt Barzell? I don't think so. The optimal center in this series would have been Pajot or Nelson, because they still play a better two-way game than Barzell. But that's going to change. Barzell is going to learn from this. He's going to get better, and we're going to see a better Barzell entering next season. Promise you that. Because Let me tell you, this, if you could see the photos of Barzell and Dennis Potvin from 78, 79,
yep,
they're the exact same thing. He's going to buy into this system like nobody's business, and you're going to see a Matt Barzell and be like, oh boy. And that's going to go back to Joe's comment. He's going to turn into a Guy Carbonneau. And God help everybody in the NHL if Matt Barzell turned into a Guy Carbonneau. Guy Carbonneau was one of the best two-way centers of all time, and Barzell is going to be that kind of center. No question.
Compare him to he'll be a smaller Patrice Bergeron, hopefully.
Sure, I'll go along with that.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Because to me, Bergeron has done better, if not more, than Carbonneau ever did.
Yeah.
And that's the type of player you'd want to exemplify. He's got. I think he also would have to be a little better on the faceoff circle. But yeah, he's there's no question.
So let's compare this season, gentlemen. I wrote an article yesterday where I thought this season landed among the franchise's best. And I truly believe that this team now ranks 6th all time. Obviously, you have your 4 Stanley Cup years, and then you have 83-84, where they lost to Edmonton in 5 games. And before this year, it was always the 93 team. Bunch of guys getting together, beating the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins, going up against the Montreal Canadiens, and then losing to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Montreal Canadiens. I felt this year the Islanders beat out that 93 team. We came up against the defending Stanley Cup champions. We'll see if they actually win it again. And again, let's talk about it. 18 million over the cap. This was a team stocked, very talented, and we had to go up against the best goaltender in the world for the last 5 years. Patrick Waugh was great, but Andrei Vasilevsky is the man right now.
Yeah.
And for us to go back to the conference finals, I personally put this team right behind the dynasty years because I still believe there's more to come. Gary, your thoughts? Is this team better than the 93 team?
Yes, without question. I almost, and I'm talking just a smidge, only because they made it to the finals, I would almost put this team ahead of 84.
Ooh.
I would almost put it ahead of 84 because of the fact you were without a big piece. Yes, you got Palmieri and Zajac because Anders Lee was hurt. But if you had Anders Lee in this lineup right now, again, we'd be playing for the final.
Yeah.
We're winning the cup, boys and girls. I'll throw that out
exactly.
there. We're winning the cup.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go that far, but
this cup's ours.
I wouldn't go that far, but you got the bigger square in the screen right now, so it's up on you.
Damn right. We're winning the cup. Anders Lee, I'll throw it out here right now. Anders Lee in that lineup against Tampa Bay, we win the cup.
Yeah, I agree.
Him coming back from the injury, we're winning the cup. That's motivation for you. Oh,
That's
my God.
I put it there. Because, using the quote from Gretzky when the Islanders won the fourth in 83, he looked in the Islander locker room after they were done and everybody was like in pain and with ice packs all over and all this. And that was motivation for Edmonton to win that cup in 84. So you knew that it was starting to die out. So, 84, they're on the downslope. 2021, they're on the upslope. So that's why I say maybe it's just a little bit, tied. I'll give it 4.5.
Fair enough. Matthew brought up an interesting point. I'm not going to call him out on this one, but he does bring up a semi-decent point. It's hard to get back to the same spot 2 years in a row. My only counter to that is that the first one was a tournament. They had 3 months off before they actually got started, and this was just a 56-game season. So basically from the last fiscal year, they've only played roughly 80-some-odd games. It's only been basically one season, if not less. I think they could pull it off again. And with the system that they have, when it comes to luring their players in and attacking the way they can, you're running 4 lines. And this goes back to the Stanley Cup teams. It didn't matter how you started, but it's how you finish. A lot of these, the dynasty years, they didn't finish in first all the time. They didn't have to. All they had to do was pace themselves and be healthy for the playoffs.
And get in.
That's it.
And 83, 84, that was a banged up team, and we still lost 5 games to the Edmonton Oilers. If the Islanders are healthy heading into the playoffs and we got home ice advantage, we can go as far as they want. I think they could absolutely do it again.
Right. No, I agree. And some people.
Hold on one second. I got to close my door.
Something's going on in John's house.
Yeah, let me close the door.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
some people were saying, the 84 team was better. I'm not saying the 84 team wasn't better. I'm just saying the difference is 84 was on the slope down, 2021 on the slope up.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I'm not knocking the chance for the 5. That was, come on, 6 Hall of Famers on that team. How can you go wrong? But you can see the difference.
Right.
In terms of seasons. Yeah.
Right.
Without question.
So, those are my thoughts on the season. It's still one of the best in franchise history. I don't think we're done. And if you guys stick around with me for the next 3 weeks or so, I think you're going to understand why. I'll say this out right now. If the Islanders draft correctly for this year and next year, this team's set for the next 10 years. 10. Let me fit this in here. 10.
Yeah, you got that big screen. You got to get both.
I know. I got the big screen.
Yeah.
10 years. You guys didn't believe us before that we thought the Islanders this year were going to the Stanley Cup Finals. Well, we were close. Yep. I'm telling you now, strap yourselves in. Get ready for a couple of good shows. Crack out the pom-poms for all I care.
Yeah.
This team is now changing. Not only do we have the players to do it, we have the depth to do it. We got enough draft picks to do it. And here's the most important thing, boys and girls. The Islanders next year are going to be playing in New York and living on Long Island and practicing in a brand new facility, state-of-the-art facility, and playing, going back to New York, in a brand new arena. The Islanders have absolutely no excuse at attracting free agents anymore, ever again. Ever.
That's totally agreed.
Ever.
I think,
give me 2 seconds, guys. Something's going on with my mother.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, John. But what I'll add to that is I think they'll still end up practicing in game days and stuff at Northwell.
Sure.
And but still that was always the problem. When the Islanders had good years, the 2000, 2002, that era when we were making the playoffs with Laviolette and you had Yashin and Pekka and those guys, you had good teams. But the problem was, how the heck can you try to attract players to that building? We love our Coliseum, but
yes.
it wasn't going to attract anybody. Especially when you look at Philadelphia.
You couldn't attract players until they were here.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then they finally realized what the Coliseum, the fans, what they brought to the game. Clutterbuck said it best. It's not so much the Coliseum, but it was the way the fans treated the Coliseum. It was the way the fans treated the Islanders like family. And when things got good, it got really good.
Yep. Yeah.
That's. Go ahead.
No, just reiterating. Paul's information, and you're going to get it over the next couple of weeks. The end of the Gar Snow era and the Lou Lamoriello era. The drafting that we've done, especially kids in the later rounds. The numbers that are coming up with these guys that you just heard at the end of the second day of the draft, and you go, "Oh yeah, so what? They drafted this guy." Well, I guarantee you, if you compared your thoughts 24 months before and you see what they are now, that's what Paul is saying. The way we're drafting, especially not the first round and second round, but your 4, 5, 6 round guys, that is where you're building your depth from. And then you bring those kids to Bridgeport a year or two after they're drafted and you develop them there. This season in Bridgeport was a complete aberration. You can't even think about it.
Yeah, it was just what they play the same team. 50,000.
They played
times?
the Providence Bruins and the Hartford Wolfpack.
12 times each. 12 times each. But again, the talent that was there. A lot of kids, a lot of these prospects, these European kids that that you may have heard about, but you don't know that they're coming. But they're coming. And then with the kids coming out of college, I guarantee you there's going to be 2 or 3 of these guys coming up that are going to make you in a year go, damn, we did that.
I'm gonna say this now to the fans and everyone watching. I said this on Gary's show last Sunday. I don't think I have seen an organization this deep with talent and depth probably since 82, 83.
Right.
We had a bunch of really good kids named Nelson, Lee, Mayfield, Strom back in the mid tens, in the early teens. They were good in Bridgeport, but those teams up in the Islander teams back, in 11 and 12, they weren't that great.
Nope.
Folks, we're entering territory we haven't seen in 40 years. My younger fans, you haven't seen anything yet. You're going to experience it. And I say that proudly. I don't think the Islanders have had this much depth in their organization since 82 or 83. And that goes back to the time when the Islanders minor league teams were the Indianapolis Checkers, and they ended up winning the CHL. I think it was the Clark Cup. Or was it the Clark Cup?
I think it's Clark Cup.
Okay. So the Islanders won the Stanley Cup and the Clark Cup both those years. Folks, we're near that. We're near that.
Just so you younger fans, in the 80s, there were actually 3 different minor leagues. There was the
Correct.
AHL, the IHL, and the CHL. And the Central Hockey League was basically the Midwest of the country, and the Checkers, the Checkers won when the Islanders won. So it was a very interesting time. But you look at what happened this year down in the minors, and you're saying, no, we can't be this good. But believe you me, there is so much coming to the surface. And again, I credit Paul for educating me on a lot of it. We may bust each other's chops on a lot of occasions, but I will say he really does his homework and he knows his stuff, and things that he's told me over the years, I'm like, no, can't be. And really, he's been incredible. So I really suggest anybody that's listening to the show that over the next 3 or 4 weeks, read the stuff that Paul writes on Owls Talk, listen to what he's telling you here, and watch these kids, because you're really going to see some good things coming. Yeah, Paul bust chops. Yeah, well, no comment there.
All right. All right. It's time for water cooler talk, guys. I know I've been bringing up some of the comments here during the show. I appreciate that. We all appreciate that. Questions, comments, concerns. My answers given to you at this point concerning offseason moves or the expansion draft are going to be off, or even the roster. I'll even talk about the roster. They are going to be off what I have done my research on with the depth of the Islanders, the organization itself, the prospects, the players, everyone. So, there's no insight.
And we have time to talk about that.
Yes, John, I know you have to go at some point. By all means, do you have any other questions, comments, concerns, John?
Well, I just think, just to kind of lead into what you're saying, if you listen to what Lou's presser with the media the other day, and he made reference to the fact that a lot of these decisions that they make is also going to be based on the guys who are ready to step into the lineup next season. I don't know if anybody really caught that line when he said that, but that kind of gives you an indication of that they're looking at some of these kids as being more serious contributors to the lineup next season, which will impact, what we do with the contracts and all that stuff.
Okay,
yeah, for sure. I agree.
So, first question coming from Matthew: expose Letty or trade him? Okay, for those of you who do not know, and you can get your information right off of Cap Friendly, you need to expose at least one defenseman. Okay, the only 3 defensemen who actually qualified to be part of the expansion draft are Scott Mayfield, Ryan Pulock, and Nick Leddy. So as of this conversation, the choice I'm making is that I'm exposing Nick Leddy.
Agreed.
Yep.
Okay.
Totally agree.
$5 million, and I said this on the show. I put a little skit on it on YouTube. We called this salary cap crunch back in December. And unfortunately, the NHL made that official just a couple of months ago. So for me, I'm keeping Mayfield. I'm keeping Pulock. They're still part of the core. But Nick Leddy, unfortunately for me, he would probably be on the waiver, the expansion list. Now, could something change before then? Maybe. I personally would rather trade Letty for someone else and then expose that defenseman. Get me something back for Letty. But for right now, Nick Letty is the one I'm going to put on the expansion one. David Cutler, is Casper Holmstrom a bust? No, Simon Holmstrom is not going to be a bust. He just turned 20, and like many of the other prospects, he has been doing very well for his age. But now I really do need to see something out of him starting this season in Bridgeport. But no, he's not a bust. He's far from it. Granted, does he need to shoot the puck more? Absolutely. And
maybe a little bit bigger too.
They all need to get bigger.
Yeah,
they all need to get
he
bigger.
He definitely needs to get bigger.
Yeah. Islanders have to draft down the middle. Give us some prospects that fit our system. I'm not doing that yet. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm cheating on that one. I do have a couple of listed players, but I'm going to do that right before the draft. But yes, we do need centerman, and we do need another right defenseman for sure.
Now we don't draft in the first round, correct?
No, we do not. We draft in the second. We have Colorado.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Brian again. Centers, yes. Wingers, why not? If you're looking for a sniper, sure. As long as we develop them, I'm fine with that. But definitely centers. Sometime this year or definitely next year, we need to find that diamond in the rough potential first line or second line center. Without question, the Islanders are absolutely staggering at it right now. If I had to give the prospects a grade, I'm going B minus. But there's a reason why it's that low, and I'll get into that next week.
I'll just add something on here, Paul.
Sure.
I heard some talk that Tarasenko has listed 4 teams that he would waive his no trade clause, and guess who's on that list? We are.
Are the Islanders really?
It's Boston, the Islanders, Colorado maybe, and somebody else. But yes, we are on that. And Vegas. But we are on that list. Now that's something you would never in the last 10 years see. A guy with that kind of talent, come up and say we're going to be on the no trade, off the no trade list.
Right. We have 2 second-round picks, don't we? I was
believe
corrected.
we do.
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
We do.
Thank you, Matt, for correcting me. Yeah, I wanted to make sure, but I definitely knew we had one from Colorado. I didn't know if we traded our second-round pick with Palmieri or not. But nope, that's fine. I'll take 2 second-round picks. Here's an interesting one. Oh, you did that. Okay. Oh, no, hold on. Moving a second-rounder to take Seattle to take a bad contract. No, I'll get into that in a minute. And this one's another one, Ladd contract. Let's talk Andrew Ladd real quick. He's got 2 years left. The problem that everyone has is that he's healthy. You can't put him on the LTIR, and if I'm not mistaken, he still has a signing bonus. So teams are not going to take him when you got to fork over a couple $1 million for him not playing. So don't worry about Ladd yet. Worst case scenario, you send him back down to Bridgeport and you save yourself $1 million. But we'll see what happens.
Okay, I'm going to jump off, guys.
All right, John.
Take care, John.
All right.
Thanks for coming. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I can still see us moving a second rounder to Seattle to take a bad contract. I have heard, nothing official, but I have heard that Seattle will take nothing less than a first rounder if they're going to take a bad contract. So if it's a really expensive contract, say anything more than 3, 4, 5 million, which is where Ladd is, Seattle wants a first round pick. So I'm not sure about that.
I think Tarasenko misspelled Rangers.
Yeah, I like that, Brian. I'm going to put that on there. I like that. I like that. That's funny. That's beautiful. I like this. Re-signing Green or going with a rookie. Again, we're going to get into that with the Bridgeport. The only rookie that I think has a shot at making the club would be Robin Salo, but I think he needs a little bit of time in Bridgeport first. The other one would be Sebastian Aho. Sebastian Aho to me is a seventh defenseman. He needs to put on at least another 10 to 15 pounds. If he put on 10 or 15 pounds of muscle, he'd be in. No question. He'd be in. Re-signing Green, only if the Islanders can sign Alec Martinez to a nice little contract. Because for me, in terms of development, I want Alec Martinez playing with Noah Dobson, and then you can put Andy Green, who is a very friendly contract, with Scott Mayfield. And then you can play those two pairs the same amount of minutes. That's fine. You don't have to stretch your team out. You don't have to stretch out your defensemen. And with the goaltenders you have behind you, my goodness. But Alec Martinez on this team, not only does he fit the system, but Noah Dobson would take his game to another level on that pair. So for me, personally, the only free agent I'm really looking at is Alec Martinez. Please, Lou.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Another good question here. We'll get into it. What about Bolduc? 2 years.
Yeah, he's made unbelievable strides. I did see some of his play, and I really love him, but it's still a little raw.
2 years.
Yeah.
2 years. And I do have that confirmed from a couple of NHL scouts that I have developed friendships with. They agree with me. 2 years, but when he reaches the NHL, look out.
Yep.
Absolutely look out.
And what round pick was he? Was he like a fifth?
Second.
Oh, second. Oh, Bolduc was the second pick. That's right.
Bolduc was the second pick.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Hold on for what? Sorry, Matt. Greg Vincent, expansion draft moves, and who will Francis take? Will the Isles make a trade like they did with Vegas? No, I don't think so.
No, I don't either.
I don't think so. You got to remember, guys, the cap is not going up for the next 4 years. Seattle is looking for quality over quantity now. They're going to have to spend their money more wisely. I don't see the Islanders making a move. For now, again, according to Cap Geek, there are only 2 forwards that I am putting down on the expansion list, and that is Komarov and Clutterbuck. Here's my list for the expansion. Komarov, Clutterbuck, Nick Leddy, and Ken Appleby will be the goaltender that gets exposed. Those are my players getting exposed. That way Seattle basically gets nothing from us because the system still works without Komarov. It will still work without Clutterbuck. It will still work without Leddy and certainly without Appleby. I don't want to lose Cal Clutterbuck, but Leo Komarov and Cal Clutterbuck could probably get Seattle a late round pick in 2022 as a pure rental to help someone get them through the playoffs. That's what Komarov will do. That's what Clutterbuck will do. But if they're looking for a longer term solution, Nick Leddy would probably be a good pick for them because they can re-sign him. And Leddy is still a decent defenseman. You can still sign Leddy for like another 2 or 3 year deal, and Leddy would probably do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's lost a little bit of his speed, but he still has the ability to do an end-to-end rush. And, it's, again, he's not you're not putting stud minutes, but you could put him as a number 4, maybe a number 5, put him at 17 minutes a game, and you'll have a serviceable guy. Whether it's worth $5 million is another deal, but he's still serviceable. And again, I think it could be a good target. What
about Bodie Wild? Great question, Bill. And that's the same as Samuel Bolduc. 2 years. 2 years.
He would have been next year had he not got hurt, and he lost basically just about a whole year.
Yeah. So he lost basically about 2 years worth of development. So give him 2 more. Sign Alec Martinez to a 2 or 3 year deal. He's 33. He's on the wrong side of 30, but he's going to get you far.
Yep, no question.
Alec Martinez will come. Don't even worry about the money anymore. You want a shot at the Stanley Cup? Come to Long Island. Come to New York. That's what it's all about. Okay, here's another good question from Keith Christie. What's going to happen with Bellows? Bellows is not on the expansion list because he did not have enough games played this season.
Right.
Okay. Now, here's another thing. And you guys are going to be so mad at me. You guys are going to be so mad at me, but you're going to have to follow the Bridgeport section of the path to the draft in a couple of weeks. I foresee Oliver Wahlstrom starting the season in Bridgeport. And the reason why I say that is because Keither Bellows is going to fall into the Devon Tays category, where Devon did not have enough professional games played, and he cleared waivers because he was waiver exempt because he didn't have enough games. Kiefer Bellows is in that same situation, and I think Lou did that on purpose. Great move by Lou. But at the same time, if you watch Bellows and Wahlstrom together, there's already chemistry. There's already chemistry. If you give those two a shot down in Bridgeport and you tell them, be ready for the playoffs, whether it's with Bridgeport or the Islanders, next season's Islanders could turn into this year's Montreal Canadiens, where we just bring up the kids for the playoffs and we let them tear everybody apart. Boys and girls, listen to this line. If it happens during the playoffs, Kiefer Bellows, J.G. Pageau, and Oliver Wahlstrom.
A healthy J.G. Pageau.
A healthy J.G. Pageau. Okay? It's not how you start the season, it's how you finish. If you give Wahlstrom a full year of Bridgeport, you give Bellows a full year of Bridgeport, these kids are going to be hungry for the playoffs because they just witnessed what the veterans did this year. And you take off the leashes and say, sick them. Go get them. That could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to explain why I think Wahlstrom, other than Bellows, why I think Wahlstrom could start the season in Bridgeport. Could he come up at any time? Absolutely. I'm not saying he's not going to spend time in the NHL. I think he is. But to start off the season, in order to get Wahlstrom a little more consistent to Barry Trotz's system, I think he's going to start the year in Bridgeport along with Bellows. Do I want Bellows and Wally? I didn't say that. It's not necessarily a want. I wanted them to play this year in the NHL for their development. But there's a thing, there's something about playing in the NHL and then playing in Barry Trotz's system. And you got to understand something. The Islanders beat Boston, and they came to 7 games with Tampa Bay without Bellows and without Wahlstrom. They don't really need the kids during the regular season. You guys do. You guys want the scoring. That's not what Barry's about. That's not what Lou's about. And I understand where you guys are coming from. But a full season of Kyle Palmieri, and I'll tell you another prospect right now, Anatoly Golishev, he's an older version of Anthony Beauvillier, 26-year-old. He's a mix between Pageau and Beauvillier. You put them on a third line together, look out. It's possible, guys.
And this was a guy that didn't expect to ever come here and didn't want to initially come here. But then after, so many seasons in the KHL, his eyes kind of lit up and said, well, maybe it might not be the idea. This is a Lamoriello steal. If the potential of what this kid can, I say kid, what he can bring to this organization if everything falls right. This is like in baseball, getting a 50 home run hitter just thrown at your lap. These things don't necessarily happen, but it can work.
And Gary, we're old enough. When was the last time you saw Lou Lamoriello sign one of his players to like a 5-year deal and then trade him the next year?
No.
I can't remember.
No, neither can I.
Kovalchuk left. He didn't get traded. He left.
Yeah, that's true.
I have never seen a Devil get traded a year after signing a long-term contract. And let's think about this, boys and girls. Let's go back into Islanders history. Did Bill Torrey, after 1979, tear the team down and bring in more kids?
No.
No, he didn't. He let them all marinate in the CHL. He waited for a certain defenseman to win the gold medal when he realized what he had. And then he made a trade towards the end of the season. Hence Butch Goring. Hence 4 more cups. Hence 5 trips to the Stanley Cup Finals. Go ahead, Gary.
And he traded, again, for those youngsters that don't know, I mean, he traded, 2 of the heart and souls of this team. I mean, and, in Billy Harris and Dave Lewis. Dave Lewis was a guy if you never said his name, he was doing his job. Yep. He was an unbelievably solid defensive defenseman. Was absolutely brilliant, positionally, almost perfection. And they were 2 heart and souls of this organization. I mean, Billy Harris, was there from game 1, in 1972. Everybody said, he was the first Islander, and to let those 2 go, and they were loved by the rest of the team. But Bill Torrey knew this was, he knew when it was time to, to show the cards and make a move. And we all know what happened after that.
I remember reading people telling Torrey, break up the team, fire Arbor, get rid of this, let's start over. Look what happened. He kept everybody intact. He kept Al Arbor. He made one little move, and there we go. Now, Brian Pauser brings up a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Torrey also said he hung to the vets too long. Correct, but wrong time. He should have started trading them in 86, 87, maybe even 85. Those were the times to do it. When you're on a Stanley Cup run for as long as they were, you got to keep the core together. That's why he brought in the Sutter brothers. That's why he brought in Fontaine. That's why he brought in Flatley. He drafted well still. Mm-hmm. You didn't need to trade the vets because you were drafting so well. What killed the Islanders was the drafting. Basically, I want to say 83 or 84 on. That's what killed the Islanders. That's what killed the dynasty. That's why everything fell to the drafting was horrible.
Yep.
It would have been much easier to get rid of the vets if the drafting was good. And that's why I do this show in the offseason, folks. It is, I don't want to say my job, but it's my enjoyment to show you guys where the Islanders are as an organization right now.
Actually, Matthew Carbone just made a comment too. They lost right after the cup run. Jimmy Devellano left for Detroit, and that was it. He was the architect of so many of those Islander drafts. And when he left, and they also had some kid named what was his name? Neil Smith.
Who?
Neil Smith was involved with the Islanders in the mid '80s.
Darcy Regier.
Yeah, well, Darcy came afterwards, but that's true. But again, just getting back to it, the draft is, this is so important, and people don't realize how important this draft is going to be, despite the fact that we don't have a first round pick. But again, what Lou has done over the last couple of years, and Paul will definitely feed you this information, as we get closer to the draft on what he's done. Not the sexy round 1 pick or even the round 2 pick. It's the round 4, 5, 6, 7. It's what he's done there and what guys have made the development, the strides. You don't think they're going to do much, and all of a sudden, as you'll see when he talks about it, they made a big steep turn, and they're on their way up to come here.
Some of this is true, what Brian is saying. Some of our best players were in their 20s. Our core is now in their 30s. That depends on the core you're talking about. Dennis Potvin was getting, 29, 30 when he started winning the cups. So was Bob Bourne. So was Butch Goring. They were all right where some of these Islander players are right now. Okay. The young core, Barzell, Beauvillier, Pullock, they're 24, 25. They're not that old yet. And if you take a look at the Stanley Cup winners, take a look at St. Louis. St. Louis was 29, 30 years old. A couple of those LA King teams, they were a little bit on the older side. The older players are needed because they know the grind. Most teams, when they win a cup, it's usually between ages 28 to 32. Look at Pittsburgh a couple of years ago. Crosby, Malkin, they were already in their 30s. They were winning. But you have to have enough of the influx of your younger guys to help you get that puck, to help you get that win. You're right. Trotz, Boss, they were 23 to 26 range. Absolutely, Brian. That's where Barzell is. That's where Beauvillier is. Okay? Look at Noah Dobson. These guys are all going to be helping together as a team. Absolutely. I'm going to get into the prospects and everyone else in the next couple of weeks. I'm not going to spoil it now. We're running on an hour and 15 minutes. This was great. This was a great history lesson. This was a great show to begin with. You guys are absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
I love the questions. I love this format. And again, nobody's wrong. I'm not going to put you guys down at all.
No.
You guys are awesome. I am very grateful you guys come on. I respect your opinions, whether right, wrong, indifferent. That's why we're here. We're here to talk about it. I love the information you guys bring. Here we go. Here we go. Josh Hosang. At some point, I don't know when, but I'll tell you guys with Hosang. I don't know when I'm allowed when. I don't know when I'll get permission to, but maybe never. But we'll do a meetup and I'll let you guys know what happened. But until then, yeah, I can't do it on air.
Yeah.
Yep. So this has been great. We're gonna do this next week. Coming up next week, we're gonna be talking about the juniors, the junior prospects, and the college prospects. Normally, I break the juniors and the college into their own section, but to be honest with you, we're kind of short on juniors, and the college kids roughly played 24 games.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of information, but there's enough substance there to get you guys a little more excited for the kids. And then the following week, we're going to go into Bridgeport, and then we'll talk more expansion draft. We'll go into the entry draft, so on and so forth. Yes, Reese Newkirk. Absolutely.
Yep. He's one of the studs we're going to talk about.
No, Chris, you don't have to get me drunk for that one. You don't have to get me drunk. No, I'll be more than happy to tell you guys. Just don't tell anyone I told you. That's all. You guys are worried about Casey Cizikas. I'll bring this up very quickly. There is no increase in the cap for the next 4 years. The thing that is of most value right now is term. 30-year-olds don't want to move their families anymore. If Lou gives a fair offer to Casey and Casey doesn't take it, Casey might be making a mistake. And I have a blog about that coming up real soon too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Casey loves the Islanders. The Islanders love Casey. If Casey is given a fair deal, aka a 3 or 4 year deal, guess what? I think he resigns. This is a type of salary cap that Lou Lamoriello thrives upon because he loves keeping the brotherhood or the family together. Casey knows that. And for those of you who are worried about Casey selling his house, it is a standard protocol. It's normal for some of these players to sell their houses if they don't at the end of a contract. It is normal for most of the players who do that. So don't worry about Casey selling his house if that is exactly what happened. Don't worry about it. So again, thanks for coming on. You guys have been great. We'll be back next week. I'm going to be talking about the juniors. I'm going to be talking about the college kids. Gary, you're more than welcome to join and fire away with any questions you may have. We'll bring back John if he wants in. But, the NHL, the Islanders season may be over. We're not done yet. We're not even close. Strap in. for the next 10 years, boys and girls, because this is going to be a lot of fun. And hopefully you bring us with you. Don't forget to follow Isles Talk on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and like this video on YouTube. You can follow Gary where?
At G Harding WGBB on Twitter.
And you can follow me at P_Kreischer on Twitter. Thanks for coming, guys. We will be back next Wednesday. Maybe we'll have a Stanley Cup winner. We'll talk about that. And we'll talk about more on the prospects next week. All right. Great show, guys. Talk to you later.
Take it easy.
Let's go, Islanders.